The concept is asking designers, architects, and various friends that pass by and are invited to read from page 10 or another page from their favorite books, a book that has inspired them or impressed them or shaped their idea of the world or idea of what is design or what is the life on planet Earth. What we'll do now, basically, instead of doing a conversation, we'll be recording, since this is a TV set, basically, or supposed to be a TV set. Each one of the people we have here, which are Marco Reynaud, Katarina Mischer, Thomas Traxler, and Petra Sorizova, designers, curator, and one student for Domus Academy. Each one of them will basically read a passage from their favorite book. We'll read in in all languages, Italian, German, English. Basically, in these few days, all our invited guests will read from their favorite languages, so there will be a plurilinguistic situation. And so I'll give the mic to Marco Reynaud, curator and designer and architect, who will read, I think, from Raymond Queneau and another book, Jonathan Safran Foer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gianluigi. I'm very happy to be here also because I consider Domus Academy like a family, a big family for me, and it's a pleasure and an honor to be hosted here. It's not so easy to speak with this microphone here, no, because of the sound in this wonderful place, but the acoustic is a kind of weird. But in any case, I would like also to spend some words to introduce this kind of selection that I made. No, since when somebody asked you, what about your favorite book, is always frightening for me, you know. I do not have probably a favorite book. I have millions of books, and I used to say that maybe the favorite one will be the one that you will buy tomorrow. But in any case, in my library I found this small book. This is the Italian edition of the Raymond Queneau, a small portable cosmogony. Written in Italian is Piccola Cosmogonia Portatile, and it's a very interesting and intense book in my opinion. It contains literally millions of words, and maybe the first things to say is that the most important word in the title is cosmogony. No, the weight of the title, it's totally on the word cosmogony. So cosmogony, as you know, it's how you can describe the birth of a universe, how you can deal with the fact that at a certain point cosmos happened. And this is a super amazing word in my opinion, no? To try to discover the birth of something, especially if this something is a universe, a cosmos, no? It's super inspiring. That has something to do also with this idea that we have also to find words to describe the things that we do. And words are so interesting, and words itself contains millions of significance and messages. There is this I always quote Roland Barthes, who said that words in itself are encyclopédie, you know? So this idea that one word contains millions of words. And this is the reason why I found this book so interesting, because it's the tentative to describe the cosmos, the universe, from this birth until the present days in 6 sections of this book. And the words are so rich inside, and they constantly try to explore other universes. So it seems to me that this book contains millions of books. That is more or less, I don't want to put it very simple, but It's more or less what you do when you try to create something, no? I mean, as a designer, it's probably something very interesting because you try very hard to make a synthesis, no? To simplify the words that surround you daily in something that you do to express your theory, no, of life when you are a designer. So this is the Italian version of the book. I do not have the English one, but it's also very interesting to say that the Italian part was in part translated by Italo Calvino, that was a giant of our literature, not only the Italian one, and the translation was made by Sergio Solmi, who was a poet, a writer, a novelist, and so on. And it's something that adds value to this book. No, I do not know French. I'm not able to read in French. I will read something in Italian. But it's nice also to think that a very valuable person, a very important author, no, were in charge to make the translation of a very difficult and intense book. That means that you add a layer of significance, no, to the first edition of the book. That, again, is something that faced the opportunity to understand more the reality that's around us. So I'm going to read a small part, a small piece. This is not a novel, no, it's more a very long poetry. And a small part of the fourth section of the book. The book describes the birth of the cosmos starting from an explosion. And the fourth part, it deals with the crystals and the minerals and virus. So I will try to read the few lines in Italian, and then I will close with another book. This is not, they asked me to just select one, but since I like also to go off-road, there are possibilities to link these two books. So, in Italian. Cristallo sì, cristallo no, cristallo fa conta delle facce, e pur dei vertici e degli spigoli, cristal sì, cristal no. Sfaldatevi di netto, via, sfaldatevi già che ci siete, o cristalli, nutritevi di succhi al pari di semplici pori, e quando vi rompete, come gli astici ricrescete. Nel fondo d'un cilindro di vetri frantumati si mantengono colori e suddividono le forme. Nei loro trucchi combinati non si riconoscono gli elementi primi né le forme e regole più semplici. Tabacco sì, tabacco no. Tabacco arabeschi tua foglia di mosaico, come al caleidoscopio può vedersi. Tabacco sì, tabacco no. La tua combinazione arriva tosto nel microscopio al gioco. Dove dunque l'ozono con il suo bluastro fiato? E dove dunque l'acqua che si dice potabile? Finisce la struttura, 1.000.000 d'atomo. Il vivente appare soltanto quale impalcatura. Più grandi ammassamenti fanno il nocciolo grosso che terra si dice, e l'elettrone suo che morto sospinge le maree. Altezze d'acqua, d'Alisei rigore, fuoco d'un gioco di paglia, forma tonda e distesi morbidi orizzonti, ogni giorno gonfiando per le alghe i loro palloni da football, per tutti i battelli che bene giungeranno nonostante uragani e pur serpenti di mare. So this is just a small part of this book, and it's nice because in Italian it's give you there is some music also in the sequence of the words. So I would like to end my contribution saying that this kind of reading, it crossed my mind the possibility to link this book and the content of this book to this other one that is more recent. It's from 2010 by an author that maybe you know very well, because it's very famous. No, he was the one that wrote Everything is Illuminated, for example, and his name is Jonathan Safran Foer. He's very young. He has the same age of you, right? 77, right? And the title of this book is Three of Codes. Basically, the idea is that we maybe can call this one also an artistic book, because basically it was literally extracted, carved out from another book, because Safran Foer picked up this book of Bruno Schulz. The original title is The Street of Crocodiles. A cat the pages, no? So literally carved out words, sentences, lines from this book in order to obtain another book from the first one. It seems to me that this act of carving out is very, very interesting, and the fact that one book contains another one is so triggering and so inspiring. And you can link this to the things that I said, before talking about Raymond Queneau, when I said one single sentence, or maybe to say it briefly, one single word contains as an encyclopedia millions of other words, and one single page of one book maybe could contain 1 million books, no? So it's a sort of vertigo that is very interesting and very inspiring. It depends from the distance, that you keep from things. You can see a universe in every detail, and maybe it's part also of the job that we do daily as designer.
Thank you very much. So we have Caterina Misha, or Thomas.
You have us
Traxler.
together.
We'll read from a Michael.
Well, actually, we picked the book together. The book is called Momo. It's from the 70s by a German author called Michael Ende. And we picked it because I guess to a certain degree I grew up with the book because I had it as a tape. That sounds now horrendous, but actually when I was little, like maybe 8 or 9, I had it on a tape because we got it from friends, and I had it at my cassette recorder, and I would listen to it quite often, frequently and repetitive way. And later when I think in school we had to read it again, but later on for several projects it always occurred to me, like passages of the book that I got quite by heart if you listen to it quite often. And Thomas and I discussed a lot of the parts of the book for some of the projects, or somehow they occurred in some of our discussions, and that's why we decided to bring the book with us. And Thomas is going to read a part in German that describes the special talent the little girl has, and I'm going to read a passage in English about another character within the book.
Yeah, I think what's very interesting about the book is because it's written in 1973, and it's about like time and how we as a society deal with time, and that time is very precious and it's taken away and everything. So we quite like it. It's like, if you imagine like 73 is like compared to now still very slow, but actually he brought in things which are still valid at the moment and probably even more valid, and we really like this and how he deals with it and explains it. Yeah, so my part of the book is actually about like listening and that it's very important to listen, but
Yes.
okay, sorry, but it's a
Record.
okay. Okay, so, und wer noch nicht gemerkt hatte, dass er sie brauchte, zu dem sagten die anderen, geh doch zu Momo. Dieser Satz wurde nach und nach zu einer feststehenden Redensart bei den Leuten und der näheren Umgebung. So wie man sagt, alles Gute oder gesegnete Mahlzeit oder weiß der liebe Himmel, genauso sagte man bei allen möglichen Gelegenheiten, geh doch zu Momo. Aber warum? War Momo vielleicht so unglaublich klug, dass sie jedem Menschen einen guten Rat geben konnte? Fand sie immer die richtigen Worte, wenn jemand Trost brauchte? Konnte sie weise und gerechte Urteile fällen? Nein, das alles konnte Momo ebenso wenig wie jedes andere Kind. Konnte sie vielleicht zaubern? Wusste sie irgendeinen geheimnisvollen Spruch, mit dem man alle Sorgen und Nöte vertreiben konnte? Konnte sie aus der Hand lesen oder sonst wie die Zukunft voraussagen? Nichts von all dem. Was die kleine Momo konnte, wie kein anderer, das war zuhören. So it actually continues bit more about it, but it's really like how she listens, and that not by asking questions or something, but by listening she actually gives the people the time to think about it, and if they're not interrupted and just talk about it, suddenly like also the problems kind of got solved by themselves, or they got ideas by it, just because actually they could also listen to themselves when they were talking and they got the time to talk. And this was actually a very nice part of the book, we think.
The old one's name was Beppo Road Sweeper. Although he must have had a proper surname, everyone, included Beppo himself, used the nickname that described his job, which was sweeping roads. Every morning, long before daybreak, Beppo rode his squeaky old bicycle to a big depot in town. There, he and his fellow road sweepers waited in the yard to be issued brooms and push carts and told which streets to sweep. Beppo enjoyed these hours before dawn, when the city was still asleep, and he did his work willingly and well. It was a useful job, and he knew it. He swept his allotted streets slowly but steadily, drawing a deep breath before every step and every stroke of the broom. Steep, breath, sweep. Breeze, step, breeze, sweep. Every so often, he would pause a while, staring thoughtfully into the distance, and then he would begin again. Step, breath, sweep. While progressing in this way with a dirty street ahead of him and a clean one behind, he often had grand ideas. They were ideas that couldn't easily be put into words, though ideas as hard to define as half-remembered scent or a color seen in a dream. When sitting with Momo after work, he would tell her his grand ideas, and her special way of listening would loosen his tongue and bring the right words to his lips. You see, Momo, he told her one day, it's like this. Sometimes when you've got a very long street ahead of you, you think how terribly long it is and feel sure you will never get it swept. He gazed silently into space before continuing. And then you start to hurry, he went on. You work faster and faster, and every time you look up, there seems to be just as much left to sweep as before. And you try even harder, and you panic, and in the end, you're out of breath, and you have to stop. And still the street stretches away in front of you. That's not the way to do it. He pondered a while. Then he said, you must never think of the whole street at once. You understand? You must only concentrate on the next step, the next breath, the next stroke, and the next, and then the next, nothing else. That way you enjoy your work, which is important because then you make a good job, and that's how it ought to be. There was another long silence. At last, and he went on, and all at once, before you know it, you find you've swept the whole street clean, bit by bit. What's more, you aren't out of breath. He nodded to himself. That's important too, he concluded.
Thank you very much. And from Michael Ende to some other books chosen by our student Petra Soraizova.
Hello. I've chosen just one book, by the way. It's very interesting that you chose a German book, and I've chosen a Czech book for a very obvious reason. I'm a student in Domus Academy for a year, almost now, and everything is new. The city, the people, the language, which I still kind of don't understand. I'm sorry for that, I'm learning. Atmosphere, characteristics of everything I knew and I thought I knew, everything is just absolutely different and it works in different ways. And in a very obvious way, I wanted to kind of crawl back into something I knew and feel familiar with. And also during my studies here as a fashion designer, I was told by my teacher, Sarah De Simoni, which I thank for that, that I should look for my identity. That was kind of scary, because looking for an identity is very personal and can get you into very different directions. But I read this very interesting book from Tomáš Garrigue-Masaryk, which was a former president of Czech Republic, and he said that there is no identity without your nationality, and you will never be complete without your nation. So I wanted to discover a bit more, and I was thinking, what is our biggest heritage And one of that is our language, which is very rich. And I think it's like the third most hard language to learn. And the literature. And I picked a book of Karel Jaromír Erben. It's called Kytice. I'm gonna read it in Czech. I don't have the book with me. As I said, everything's new for me. I don't have my books with me, so there's a printed version of the cover. And I'm gonna read it in Czech because, first of all, the melody and the words of the poem is almost more important than the words. And just so you know, you're kind of in the image. It's a poem about Christmas Eve, about two girls who are spinning yarns for their wedding shirts and are looking forward to meet their husbands, which they don't know who they will be. And there is this story. Don't laugh, please. I'm trying to stay serious. And there is this story that there's an old willow by the lake. And if you carve a hole into the ice of the lake, the willow will show you your future husband. And then the girls, they have no fear. They go at night, during midnight, to the lake with an axe, and then they carve the hole. And they look into the lake, and this is the part where they look into the lake. First, I will explain what they see, sorry. So the first one looks into the lake and sees her future husband, her beloved one. She already knew him and she's very happy to see him. So the other one is very eager to see her future husband too. So she looks into that and sees a lot of fog and darkness and little red lights. And she recognizes that's the inside of the church. And basically what she sees are maids of honor standing around a coffin. So she knows that she will die next year. And this is the part where she discovers that. Ta jedna klečí nad vodou líčko, ta druhá stojí podle ní. Hano, Haničko, zlaté srdíčko, jaké tam vidíš vidění? Ach, vidím domek a jen všeře, jako co Václav ostává, však již se jasní, ach, vidím dveře, v dveřích mužská postava, na těle kabát zeleně temné, klobouk na strnu, znám jej, znám. Na něm ta kytka, co dostal ode mě můj Bože, Václav sám. Na nohy skočí, srdce jí bije, druhá přikléká vedle ní. Stař Bůh má milá, zlatá Marie, jaké tam vidíš vidění? Ach, vidím, je mlhy mnoho, všecko je mlhou zatmělé. Červená světla blízkají z toho. Zdá se mi, že býti v kostele. Něco ze černá mezi bílými, však se mi rozednívá již. Jsou to družičky a mezi nimi pro Boha rakev, černý kříž.
So this is basically an experiment in listening and comprehension. No, it's an experiment obviously in the joy of languages and sound. I think that maybe because tomorrow we'll have Carlo Ratti as an architect and Jonathan Olivares, because Joseph is trapped in Chicago still. I think that maybe we should create a more close circle around those who speak, because the acoustics is not properly perfect for reading. Anyway, thank you very much. It's been a great honor to have you here. Sorry for the acoustics, and thank you Marco, thank you Caterina, thank you Thomas, and thank you Petra. Thank you very much.